In today's video, we are going to be discussing the geometry of 3D shapes. Now remember, for 2D shapes, such as the square over here, we are used to calculating the perimeter, which is this outside area, or we would calculate the area for a 2D shape, where the area was what is inside. Now for 3D shapes, we are interested in the surface area as well as the volume. Now for this cube that I've drawn over here, the surface area can be calculated by figuring out the area of that square as well as the area of that square and that square, as well as the square on the back, the square on the bottom, and the square on the left hand side. We will then add up all of those together and we will get our total surface area for this cube. Now the other value which we need to calculate is volume, and volume is the total amount of space that we've got inside of our cube. And it's important to remember that whenever we report an answer for volume, we need to remember that whatever the unit of measurement was that we were using, so let's say for example I told you that the one side here was 2 centimeters, we need to report that our overall volume, let's say that would then be volume equals 8. It would be centimeters because we are still using centimeters, and because volume is a 3D form, this is going to be 8 centimeters cubed. Similarly, when we were calculating area, so let's say surface area, this will be given as centimeters squared because area is a 2D form. So let's get into some questions. For question 1, we are asked to find the surface area of this cube. So if we have a look at our formula sheet, we can see that we have a formula for the surface area of a cube. So surface area is equal to 6 times s squared. Right, now to find s, we need to have a look at our drawing to find what its value is. And s is simply just one of the sides in our cube. Now remember, in a cube, all sides are equal, so it doesn't matter which one we chose. So let's pick this one over here. They are all 2, so it won't really matter. So we can then say that this equals 6 times, we substitute in our value for s, of the side, which is 2, and we square it, just like the formula says. This then equals 6 times 4, which is 24. Lastly, we need to add in our units, which is inches, and because we are trying to figure out the area, it is going to be inches squared. And that is our final answer for question 1. Question 2 asks us to find the volume of this cube. So once again, we look at our formula sheet and see that the volume for a cube is equal to the side cubed. Once again, it doesn't matter which side we choose because all of the sides of a cube are equal. So let's pick that one over there. They are all 8, so once again, it didn't matter which one we chose. We can substitute that in and we get 8 cubed. Now remember, 8 cubed does not mean 8 times 3, it means 8 times 8 times 8. So we can type this into our calculator and we will get 512. Remember to keep our units, centimeters, and because we are working with volume, we know that it is going to be centimeters cubed. And this is what your final answer for question 2 should look like. For question 3, we are asked to find the surface area of this polygon. So you guys should all realize that this is a rectangular prism. So we can have a look at our formula sheet and find that the surface area for a rectangular prism is equal to 2 times the length times the width plus 2 times the length times the height plus 2 times the width times the height. So to find out what the length, width, and height are, we need to have a look at our diagram. So we can see that 11 is our length, 6 is our height, and that means that 5 would be our width. If you didn't choose the exact same values as what I did, you should still arrive at the same answer as long as you are consistent, as long as you defined what your length, width, and height were from the beginning and you didn't change them up along the way. So let's keep going. So this then becomes 2 times length times width would be 2 times, now we said our length was 11 and our width was 5. We then add this to 2 times length times width, so that would be 2 times, we said our length was 11, and rather not width now, but it is height, so it is 6. And lastly, it would be 2 times width times height, so that would be 2 times 5 times 6. Okay, so now we need to add, or rather we need to multiply each of these terms and then add them up. So 2 times 11 times 5 gives us 110, plus 2 times 11 times 6 is 132, plus 2 times 5 times 6 is 60. So now we can add all of these up and we get 302. Remember, we were working in centimeters, and because we were finding surface area, it's centimeters squared. And that is our final answer for question 3. For question 4, we're asked to find the volume of this polygon. So firstly, we need to identify the name of this polygon. As you can see, we have a trapezoid over there, so this shape is now a trapezoidal prism. We can then have a look at our formula sheet and we'll find that the volume of a trapezoidal prism is equal to A plus B, length times height, all over 2. Now we need to have a look at our diagram to find these missing values. A is the length of this top piece here, which we can see will be exactly the same as that piece there. So we know that A is equal to 6. Next, we need to find B, which we know is this bottom piece here, and that is equal to 12. So in brackets, we've got 6 plus 12. Next, we need to find the length, which is this long piece over here. So we're going to times by the length, which is 10. And lastly, we need to find the height. The height refers to the height of a trapezoid, which we are told is equal to 4. So we can multiply all of this by 4. And remember, it is all over 2. Now we can type this into our calculator, and we will get that this equals 360. Remember, we are working in centimeters. Because we are trying to find volume, it is centimeters cubed. And that is our answer for question number 4. Question 5 asks us to find the surface area of this polygon. So firstly, we know that this polygon is a sphere. So we can have a look at our formula sheet for the surface area of a sphere, and we can see that it is equal to 4 times pi times the radius squared. Right, now to find the value of our radius, we need to have a look at our diagram. Now remember, a radius is a line which extends from the middle of our circle to the outer perimeter. And as we can see, they have told us that this radius is in fact 22 centimeters. So we can substitute that value into our formula. So in place of radius, we're going to have the actual value, which we said was 22. Now we can type this into our calculator, and we should get an answer of 1936 pi. And we can round this off to approximately 6082.12. Now remember, we're working in centimeters, and because we were trying to find surface area, it is centimeters squared. Question 6 asks us to find the volume of this polygon. So we can clearly see that this is a triangular prism. So we can now have a look at our formula sheet to find the formula for the volume of a triangular prism. And we will see that the volume is equal to length times base times height all over 2. Now we need to have a look at our diagram to find each of these values. So the base refers to the base of the triangle, because remember, this is the triangle that we are talking about. So 24 is the base of that triangle. That means that the height of the triangle is 7, because remember, when we're referring to the base and the height, it is of the triangle of the prism. Lastly, we have the length, which is the length of the prism. So we can now substitute all of these values into our formula. We say that the length was 22, our base was 24, and our height we said was 7, and all of this is over 2. We can now type this into our calculator, and we should get an answer of 1848. Now lastly, we were working in meters, and because we were asked to find volume, this is meters cubed, and that is question 6. Question 7 asks us to find the surface area of this polygon. Once again, we have a rectangular prism, so we can look at the formula sheet to find the formula for the surface area of a rectangular prism, and we can see that it is equal to 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. We then have a look at our actual diagram to find all of these values. Once again, it does not matter which ones we choose where, as long as we are consistent all throughout our calculations. So we can let 4.5 be our height. We can then let 2.25 be our length, and then 3 will be our width. So let's substitute these values into our formula. We'll have 2 times length was 2.25, width was 3, plus 2 times length we said was 2.25, height was 4.5, and we add that to 2 times width was 3 and height was 4.5. We can type this into a calculator, and we should get a final answer of 60.75. Remember, it's meters, and because we're trying to find surface area, it is going to be meters squared. For question 8, we're asked to find the volume of this polygon. We can clearly see that this is a cube, So when we have a look at our formula sheet, we can find that the volume of a cube is equal to s cubed. Remember, for a cube, all of our sides are equal, so we could have picked either of these as they are all the same. So the volume is therefore 6 cubed. We can type this into a calculator and we'll get that our answer is 216. And don't forget, because we are working in centimeters, we need to include the centimeters, and because it's volume, it becomes centimeters cubed. And that is our final answer for question 8. Question 9 asks us to find the surface area of this polygon. As we know, this is a sphere, so the formula for the surface area of a sphere is equal to 4 times pi times the radius squared. Now from our diagram, we can see that our radius is 12 centimeters. So this becomes 4 times pi times 12 squared. We can then type that into our calculator, and we should get that this is equal to 576 pi. We can then round that off to 2 decimal places, and that will be 1809.56. Lastly, we were working in centimeters, and because we were finding surface area, this is centimeters cubed. Lastly, question number 10 asks us to find the volume of this polygon. As you should see, this polygon is a triangular prism, as we've got a triangle over there. So if we have a look at our formula sheet, we will see that the volume for a triangular prism is equal to the length times the base times the height, all over 2. Next, we need to have a look at our diagram to find all of these values. So the height and the base refer to the height and the base of the triangle. So we can see that 13 is going to be our base, our height is going to be 11, and lastly our length is 15. Now we can substitute these values into our formula. We said our length was 15, our base we said was 13, and our height is 11, and all of that was over 2. We can type this into our calculator, and we should get an answer of 1072.5. Now remember, we were working in feet, and because we were trying to find volume, this becomes feet cubed. And that is our final answer for question number 10.